Frost Death Knights are a top pick this season, but if everything feels overwhelming, stick with me and I'll give you a clear plan to follow so you always know what to hit next. Your Frost Death Knight runs on two things: runes and Runic Power. Runes come back on their own and you spend them on your hardest hitting abilities. Obliterate for one target and Frostbite for AoE. When you use those abilities, they build up Runic Power, which you then spend on Frost Strike for single target or Glacial Advance for AoE. When you spend that Runic Power, you also have a small chance to get a rune back thanks to a passive called Runic Empowerment. That's what creates the loop. You spend runes to build Runic Power, then spend that Runic Power to get runes back, and the cycle keeps rolling. Sometimes you'll see Rhyme, which just means your next Howling Blast is free and hits harder. Use it when it lights up, which is signified by this graphic on the top of your character. Otherwise, leave Howling Blast alone, as without the Rhyme proc, it will cost a rune, which is a very precious resource and would be optimally saved towards Obliterate or Frost Scythe. And our biggest proc is Killing Machine. It comes from your auto-attack critical strikes, and there are other ways to proc it, but we'll learn about it later in the video. When it appears, it'll be signified by a graphic on the side of your character if you have one stack on this side, or if you have two stacks on both sides. What it means is your next Obliterate or Frost Sight becomes a guaranteed critical frost hit instead of physical. When you see it, spend it immediately because you never want to overcap on Killing Machine procs, as you can only have a maximum of 2. Now that we've talked about our runes, Runic Power, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Runic Empowerment, Rhyme, Howling Blast, and our whole vibe, let's talk about our cooldowns, the big buttons that make your damage spike through the roof. First up is Pillar of Frost. This one's amazing. It's on a short 45-second cooldown, which means you get to use it often. And when I say often, I mean often enough that you would want to be pressing it basically every time it's ready. The second you pop it, almost everything you do suddenly guarantees a Killing Machine proc. Normally, we rely on a bit of RNG to see those procs light up, but during Pillar of Frost, RNG packs up and leaves. You can just get them, no questions asked. Every Frost Strike, every Howling Blast with Rhyme, boom, free crit obliterates, which, as we've said before, are a huge chunk of your single target damage. Then we have Empower Rune Weapon, which works completely differently now in patch 11.2. You get 2 charges of it, each on a short 30-second recharge. Hitting this instantly gives you 40 Runic Power, which is a ton, and just like Pillar of Frost, it gives you an instant Killing Machine proc. On top of that, because of our Frostbound Will passive, every time you spend a Rhyme proc with Howling Blast, it actually shortens the cooldown of Empower Rune Weapon. That means you will be pressing it quite a lot, so make sure to not overcap on the charges. And then there's Frostwyrm's Fury, the big flashy cooldown. Every minute and a half you call down a massive ice dragon that blasts everything in its path. It hits hard, looks incredible, and with the Rider of the Apocalypse hero talents, it also brings out our riders for even more impact. This is your longest cooldown, and when you line it up with Pillar of Frost and Empower Rune Weapon, the damage is ridiculous. These cooldowns aren't just about pressing them on cooldown, they're about supercharging that Rune to Runic Power cycle we talked about earlier, more procs, more resources, and a much faster rotation. Now let's talk talents, and we're going to take a look at 2 builds. The first one is what I like to call the Frostbane talent build. It's built entirely around everything we've just been talking about so far, and it looks something like this. It's simple, it works, and it's less punishing to execute. The trade-off is that it doesn't quite hit as hard as our second option, but the big advantage is that you can play it consistently without stressing about perfect execution. Then we have the monster, the Breath of Sindragosa build. When people talk about why Frost Death Knight is one of the biggest, meanest, most powerful specs in Mythic Plus for Season 3, they're usually talking about this build. It adds another major cooldown to your arsenal, Breath of Sindragosa, a 1.5-minute cooldown which costs 60 Runic Power just to start, which is a hefty chunk, and it unleashes a massive cone of frost damage in front of you. It ticks every second for huge numbers, and every time you consume a Killing Machine proc, it extends the duration of the breath by almost a full second. That's why I've been hammering down to not overcap on Killing Machine procs, and with breath, it's even more important. If you activate it, your job is to stay glued to your target and keep those procs flowing. If you have to run off to a mechanic or swap off to something far away, you're going to drop off your breath early, and that's basically a wasted cooldown. So here's the trade-off. The Frostbane build is safe, reliable, and easy to keep going. The Breath of Sindragosa build is a high risk, high reward. If you can execute it cleanly, it will blow the Frostbane build out of the water. But if you mess it up, you'll wish you went with Frostbane. Both are actually viable, and honestly, you should try them both to see which fits your playstyle better. Alright, so now that we've talked about our basic abilities, our cooldowns, and our talents, let's go over our single target priority. Remember, this is a priority and not a fixed sequence. You're always looking for the highest priority thing available and doing that first. So your first priority is to avoid overcapping on Empower Rune weapon charges. You have 2 charges, and Rime procs will reduce its cooldown, so it comes up very often. You don't want to waste the charge, and you would want to use it before you're at 2. Make sure you don't waste its benefits. It grants 40 Runic Power, so don't use it if you're already near cap. It gives you a guaranteed Killing Machine proc, so don't use it if you're already holding 2 stacks of Killing Machine. Your next priority is basically to use all of your cooldowns. Use Frostbrim's Fury before Pillar of Frost and Breath of Sindragosa. Frostbrim's Fury summons your 4 horsemen for extra buff. Using it into Pillar of Frost lets you fully benefit from all those buffs during your burst window, and then pop Breath of Sindragosa if you have it talented to get ready to use up all your Killing Machine procs to increase the duration of it. Then your next priority is, just as I said, use your Killing Machine procs with either Obliterate, or in AoE, you would use it with Frost Sight. Either way, use those Killing Machine procs. It's your highest damage use of runes. If you have 2 Killing Machine procs, just hit Obliterate immediately. And if you have like 1 Killing Machine proc and like 3 runes, still use it to avoid overcapping. Your next priority is to use Howling Blast with the Rime proc. As I said, it's free, it applies the damage over time effect, and shortens the cooldown of Empower Rune Weapon. Then your next priority is to spend Runic Power, so use Frost Strike or Glacial Advance, depending on the situation, if you're close to capping Runic Power. This also fuels Runic Empowerment and give you more runes to keep the cycle going. If you don't have any Killing Machine procs, you can still use Obliterate without Killing Machine. But it's just to basically keep your resources moving and prevent yourself from capping runes. And your last priority is your filler Howling Blast. If you have exactly 1 rune left and no Rime proc, you can still use Howling Blast as a filler, and during Pillar of Frost, it will guarantee a Killing Machine proc. One thing to note about Pillar of Frost is that it's not on the global cooldown, so you can basically macro it or just pair it with another ability. If you don't have a Killing Machine proc, you can use Pillar alongside Frost Strike, Glacial Advance, or Howling Blast to guarantee a Killing Machine proc immediately. But if you already have a Killing Machine proc, you can pair Pillar with Obliterate for instant big damage. And that's basically the rotation priority for the Breath of Sindragosa build. Keep the resource cycle going, line up cooldowns for maximum burst, and avoid overcapping anything. Now, as for weapons, for the common Mythic Plus build, a 2-handed weapon performs slightly better than dual wield, but the difference isn't massive, so use whichever option you have available. Don't swap just for the sake of it. Both setups are viable, and always equip your highest item level weapon. When it comes to stats, the best way to know your ideal stat priority is to sim your character using raidbots.com. While there's a general stat guidelines for Frost Decay, the value of each stat changes depending on your gear, trinkets, and talents. Sim yourself regularly to see what's best at any given time. Frost Decays is one of those specs that feels smooth once you understand the flow. Spending runes, generating runic power, and cycling back to more runes. Whether you're rocking a two-handed, dual-wield, Breath of Sindragosa, or Frostbane, the core gameplay stays about the same. Keep your resources moving, react to procs, and hit your cooldowns for massive damage. If you got any questions, drop them down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.